All right, tonight we're going to talk about the buckets, the tower system. I'm going to put up a little banner here, and if you guys have any questions, just holler. I'll try and follow along in the comments. And if I miss you, just put question or ask again or something, and I'll see you. But I'll put up little topics: how to build a hydroponic tower, the nutrients I use. We'll talk about refilling it, how to support your plants, and how to clean your towers. If you guys have seen the big towers that they have all different kinds of names now, right? And those are awesome. And I'm not putting any of that down. If you've got the money to spend on those, then that's fine. But to me, I don't want to spend 5, 6, 800, over $1,000 to grow some lettuce and veggies and that when you can just do it in something like this. Okay, we took the cracky system and just kind of basically put it in the bucket system. And that's nothing new. If you guys have watched any hydroponics, you've probably seen a whole lot of 5-gallon buckets, but basically they have one of those lids with the big net cup in the top, a black net cup, right? And it'll be about a 3 to 6 inch net cup on the top. And you grow like your tomatoes in there and that. Now that's cool, but when it rained, if this was out in the weather, it would just rain right on top and it'd fill it up. So you'd have to drill a little drain hole wherever you wanted to let the water drain out so that it wouldn't flood your air roots. Now, the problem is if you want to use this again, usually when you go to start, you want this up as high as it can go because your roots are small. So you'd have to plug up that hole until the water drained and then pull that off. And, it's not that big of a deal, but I didn't want to go through all that. So what I did was I put the holes on the side. And this way, if you have the lid on here and you've got this lip right here, I've got a little pool noodle. We'll talk about pool noodles in a minute. You put that in there, pretty much the rain is not gonna, drip into here too much. You might get a little bit of, it depends on how big your plant gets. You might get a little bit of rain dripping on the plant and then dripping in the root. And, it'll fill it up a little bit, but unless you have like a gully washer or something out there, it's not gonna drip in too fast. But if you had it up on the top, any little bit of rain would just go right in there and just fill it up. So that's why I put it on the side. Now, some people ask too, why we put it here and can't you do it lower because they're afraid you're wasting a lot of nutrients, or can you go higher? And the reason why I did it here was this is reinforcement. So if I go to stack it up, I don't really want to compromise that. If y'all want to give that a try, that's up to you. I figure they put that there for a reason because these are heavy. And let's see, 8 pounds for a gallon of water, 5. So you're talking about like 40 pounds, in each one of these. And I fill up about 3.5 pounds. So you're talking a little over 25 pounds a piece. And then you're stacking it on top of each other. So if you stack it up and you mess up the structure of this, you can only, stack them so high and it's all just going to come down. So that's the reason why I didn't go any higher than this. And some other buckets don't have this. So, you can go up a little higher. Now, I didn't go any lower. People keep asking me this one of the common questions: why don't you put it lower so that you don't waste too much nutrients? And the reason why I don't do that is because I want as much nutrients in here as possible, because I don't have to come in here and check it as often. Things stay stable longer. If you guys were here last night and we were talking about the roots and the plants, once they get situated and they start to grow and they're stable and the roots grow out, it takes a little while for the roots to go down in the water, and it knows where the water's at and it's drinking it and it's got its air roots, and it doesn't happen like in a couple of hours. It takes a while and they get situated. And if you let this go down, it's adapting slowly as that drops slowly. So if you let that go way down here and then you take it and fill it up to here, even though you leave room for air roots, to me, I don't think your plants like it. And anytime I've done that, the plants have suffered. So what I usually do, and we're going to be getting on, this is number 4 or something, refilling, but I just keep it somewhere in here, and we'll talk about that in a second. So I don't let this get too low. Now I want this much in here in the beginning, because the more liquid you have, the cooler it stays longer. And I always make the analogy of a Coke can and a swimming pool. When you go out during the summer and you have a glass or an iced tea or something, right? And you go to a swimming pool and you sit down and you notice condensation, your drink gets warm really fast. But when you go jump in the pool, it's still kind of cool. You know, it will warm up a little bit, but the pool takes a lot longer to warm up than that little glass of tea did, right? This is the same thing. If you have just a little bit in here and it starts to warm up, that's going to warm up like really fast. And then this all in here is just going to be like a sauna. So the more liquid you can keep in, and that's why one thing that I say, and you see in some of my videos, is maintain your levels. So if you can maintain a level and not let it get, you know, don't get too drastic on your plant, and you maintain a level like this, you're keeping more mass in here, is staying cooler longer. And since we don't have water circulating and going somewhere cool and coming back in, that's really important. So if you're doing something with a pump, I think one of the very first ones I built had a pump in the middle, just like the towers. And it came up through the middle and then it drizzled down. If you do that, then yeah, you know, it's not pulled up here. Your water's going down to one central thing. You can get away with letting that get a little lower and pumping it and running, and it's going to dissipate the heat in that. But if you're just having your water set like that, to me, the more you can have in here, the better. And then people wonder when you're done with it, are you wasting a lot of nutrients? And like I said, so this 5 gallons, and we keep it up about here, so it's about 2.5 gallons. I'm say when I first fill it up to here, it's about 3.5 gallons, right? When you buy Master Blend, which that's another topic we'll get into, and you buy it in bulk, and just like we're talking about the seeds, you save money by buying things in bulk. It comes out to about 8 to 12 cents a gallon. So if you have this filled up and you took it and filled it all the way up, and then you harvest your tomatoes and took tomatoes out tomorrow, you've only wasted 3 gallons of water at 10 to 12 cents. You know, so that's not very much, you know, compared to, you know, you're getting plants and tomatoes and lettuce or whatever you're growing in here. So basically, that's why I was doing it with these, is that we could get a lot of water. It's a big cracky container. And when we put the holes on the side, then we could stack them up. And now we've got something that resembles a tower, and that's what we had the pictures in that you all saw. So those you can see, I stacked 3 high each one, right? And we got red, white, and blue. We'll talk about that in a minute. And that middle one there with the white, I've got that 4 high. I put basil up on top, and I think the basil helped keep all of the hornworms away. So now you can stack it up high. You can have cracky containers. If you're growing in just 5 gallon buckets like this with one on the top, you'd have to have these buckets sitting all over the place. But you can see how much we grew in just a little space. It only takes about 1.5 feet away from your wall. And then I took these and spaced them out probably 1 foot in between of each one. So we only had about 4 or 5 feet. So you're talking about what, like 5 to 10 square feet of foot space, and you can grow a whole lot of food in that. So that's what helps with the vertical gardening. So to put these together, basically I just drill a hole, and I'm drilling 2-inch holes because I have a hole saw. Hole saws are kind of expensive, and I've got some hole saws, and I was using a 2-inch one way back when I was doing the downspouts, and we started out with net cups, and I didn't know about pool noodles and that yet. So we were just drilling holes that the net cup would fit in our downspout. So you don't have to get hung up on it. When we went and started using the pool noodles, I found out if I took the pool noodle and cut a little wedge out of it, that those would fit in there just right. And if you guys look on my channel and watch the videos, that's what I have on my downspouts. So that's why we're using the 2-inch one, because if I decided that I wanted to go back, or this didn't work out because it was just an experiment, that all of my downspouts would still fit the 2-inch cup. So that's the only reason why I made it that size. So if you want to do a bigger hole and use the bigger pool noodle, or you want to do this as a 1-inch hole and then just take these and cut these a little smaller, all you got to do is cut a bigger wedge and it folds up smaller, right? So you can get, you know, if you can't find that, if you've got something that can make a smaller hole, or you just want to use a saw or a spiral cutter or whatever. Some people have taken a tin can or a little metal cookie cutter. I've done this with the milk jugs. I showed that's just a little cookie cutter. And I just heat that up with a torch, like ones that you use in the kitchen and that, and then just go through and just melt it. So that's an easy way. If you don't feel like buying a hole saw, the only thing is if you, like me, if I take my wife's cookie cutters and use it for that, she can't make me cookies anymore. So you've got that. You got 5-gallon buckets, and what I've got here, when I started, I put holes all the way around here. So if you guys watch the first videos that I have there, I've got holes all the way around. Now you can do that. The more holes you put in here, the more structure you're going to take away from it. And if I'm just putting tomatoes in here, when I put all those holes in, I only put 3 tomatoes at the most, and 1 would be optimal. You can do 1, 2, or 3. I want to put more than that. You know, some people do, but once these things get big and start producing tomatoes, it's going to be sucking up this water fast. You're going to come out here every day and have to maintain the level. So basically, I just cut a couple of holes, and I just put tomatoes in 2 of them, and I would leave 1 open so that whenever I wanted to come check it or refill it, I could pull that out and go ahead and do that. Now I'm doing this on the side, or you can put 1 in the back for access. And that's what I'm going to do on the next one, because I wasn't thinking I put a tomato here and here and thought, you know, they're far apart, they grow up both sides, and then I'll come over here and refill it. Well, once the tomatoes got big and bushy and I wasn't pruning them yet, and I had a couple of stacks of buckets beside each other, it was kind of hard to get right into the middle one here. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you want to grow tomatoes, you don't need that many holes. If you want to grow like we have kale, lettuce, your pak choy, any of your leafy greens, you can go ahead and fill it up. You can go ahead and put 7 to 8 holes around here. You can have 1 access hole where you can refill in that too. But isn't that pretty easy? You just get buckets. This one is from Lowe's or Home Depot. It says food grade, right? For people that are concerned about that. And I've got blue ones from Lowe's and red ones from Firehouse Subs. Now, Firehouse Subs sells theirs, or they used to, it was $3 with a lid. Awesome deal. This one was like $8 or $9, and then you had your lid was $2 or $3 on top of that. It came out to about $12. Walmart sells these for $1, but they're used and they smell like frosting. Some of them were like maple frosting and that. But if you go up there and ask them if they've got some, they'll sell it to you for $1, which is a deal. And then I went by Winn-Dixie, I think, and they were nice, and they just gave it to me for free. So a lot of people out there, that's one thing I was going to chat about, is about where to get the buckets and that too. So you can go out and buy them. You can go find them. They're, you know, just about everywhere. $6.99. Just look cool. Awesome. And Firehouse Subs, don't tell anyone. And yeah, when I first started doing this and started, I was going up and getting them. And then after a while, there was like none. I was like having to race people up there, and they were like always gone. I'd have to get there like at opening, and they would go in and fill up their trays with pickles and sell me the one that they were just using that morning. Some people have got these from bakeries. They know people, and someone knew someone in a cafeteria, which they go through a ton of these. Oriental delivery or Chinese cuisine and stuff. Somebody said they use a lot of soy sauce. They got some free from them. And somebody knew a caterer, and they go through a bunch of these, and they didn't know what to do with them. They were just throwing them out too, and they gave them a whole lot free. Somebody out there scored like 100 buckets. I was like, that's crazy. That's like you can make about 30 towers with that. Imagine all the stuff you can grow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's all part of being resourceful and finding things. So instead of going out and spending hundreds of dollars and building the towers, if you want, just be resourceful. And that's why I wanted to do this now when it's just like hot, because everyone at springtime is going to see the videos. That's when the views and stuff start taking back off, because everybody starts searching it again. and then everybody runs out and they're all like asking for them and everything. But right now, when it's 100 degrees, nobody's thinking about gardening or setting anything up, right? But this one, you can go around and go find supplies, and maybe you'll find some free, that they don't know what they're going to do with it. They're just getting rid of it. And it's a good time to go ahead and stock up, get ready, take your time. You can sit there and drill your holes. Each one of these, I mean, takes me like 5 minutes to make it, and so a tower takes like 20 minutes and you got a tower built. To me, it's just blowing my mind that you can grow food like that. Now, like I said, the commercial towers are good if you want to spend that much money. They do awesome. But to me, like these are also portable. You can stack them up, and as long as they're not tomatoes and you don't have them tied together, if you're growing like lettuce when we grow kale, I had mine and it was set in a spot where it was getting a lot of sun and they were doing good, but they were getting just a little too much at the end of the day and they were starting to wilt. And I could take them and pick them up and set them down and restack them somewhere else. Now, those big towers, once they're set up, some of them are on casters, but if you're out in your yard, you can't really go anywhere with it, right? So pretty much wherever you put it, it's basically stuck there. And if you get a traditional garden, same thing. You plant your garden. If it happens to be in the wrong spot, you got to go ahead and try and move it. You got to dig up your plants. It's not really going to do too good when you can take these and just pick them up and move them. My favorite restaurant, they give me buckets and keep eating there, and they keep giving me buckets. We both went, awesome. That's cool. Yeah. I got to find some place to get some free buckets. My school is one or square like that. Not quite 5 gallons. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. I think, let me see if I've got it in this picture. My wife had mint growing. We went to, here we go, Winn-Dixie, and they gave me this one for free, the bucket. So it's a free bucket. And my wife took some mint, and I just put Master Blend in there and nothing fancy. And she took some mint cuttings that we had from somewhere else and stuck them in a pool noodle. And this thing just grew wild. We just kept picking mint off of it, and you can see the inside. It's not a whole lot of algae. There's a little bit. It's not like the prettiest thing because this is off-grid hydroponics. There's no pump and aeration and everything, but mint loves this kind of stuff. And you can see the little runners growing inside. Last thing, pool noodles. You can see I was using those. I started out like this. This was my idea. And this is why we go through and we work on things and change. I had those cut at an angle. I was just thinking it would hold the plant up since we're going on the side because we always grew on the top, right? So I said, it's going to be on the side. That the pool noodle, we can cut it longer. You can't do that with cloning collars and that, right? And then I just had it kind of slanted, but that was aimed up and was really easy for the rain to hit it and come inside, just like the towers that they have, the cups where the net cups sit on them, they're aimed up. So the rain can go in there like really easy. So that happened. So that I switched back to just using this. And that's what we'll get on when we get on to trellising them. But if you have lettuce, kale, your leafy greens, this works good for it. You don't need to tie them up or anything. And if you do, you can just do the same thing I did with tomatoes. So let me see what my next topic is. I'll get onto that. Anybody got any questions about construction? Basically, like I said, it's getting your bucket, drilling a couple of holes. It doesn't have to be a 2-inch hole. I just use that because we used to use net cups. You can do a 1-inch hole. You can use any cookie cutter you got. And basically, that's it. So, I mean, what could be easier, right? Basic construction. I go about 3 high. I put basil in the top one because I could let the water get a little low in that and just leave it there and just keep filling it up. I didn't have to have like a real heavy one all the way up on the top. If I want to get any higher than that because it gets a little unsteady, and if there's wind, I have mine up against a house and I leave the handles on. You can take these off. I have my handles on and I put a little hook on the house where I can put this on the hook, or you could take it and zip tie it to it. So if you do get a little wind and you've got, 3 buckets, you got 3 handles that you can hook it onto. Another thing you can do is put a pipe, an iron pipe or something down, stake it, one of the, what's the things you put up for a temporary fence, the little post that you put in the ground, those green things. You can put one of those right through the handles and give it a little more stability. Question, do you need air holes? Now, in the first videos, if you go back and watch, that's what I had done was up here. I was putting little holes for air, and you can do that. I think, you know, it doesn't hurt having a little bit of fresh air, being able to go in and out. The more you can restrict it, this will stay moist up here, and that kind of helps your roots from drying out and that too. But when I leave one of these open without a plant in it, and then even the plants, this doesn't totally cut off the air. It's not airtight, right? And if you have one in here too, I mean, even if you did that, there's still air getting in through there. You can see it right there, right? And you can have that closed up as much as you want. So you'll be able to get some air in. If it makes you feel a little better, you can. But everybody was concerned about mosquitoes going in through those little holes. So they were trying to cover them up with pantyhose and little pieces of screen. A little neem oil in the bucket will kill the mosquitoes too. Yeah, so that's what she's saying. Put a little neem oil. I'm experimenting with citronella oil. And I'm doing that on our my wife's pond. I think I made a video, or I got one coming up. And we've got the big 27-gallon tote on there. And we also had the tote on the living wall on that. And I was just taking essence of citronella oil, rosemary oil, and one other one. Somebody help me think of something that they don't like, something like lavender or something. But I've got those, and I was taking it and just dropping a couple drops around. And inside, I took one of these ramen trays, and I put that in there like this, so it's floating. It's like a little raft. And inside of here, I put a paper towel, and I dripped a couple drops of oil in there. So I don't know what Juliana does. Do you just drop it right into the water, the neem oil? And she said the little mosquito pucks too. Somebody said that the active ingredient in the mosquito puck was neem oil. So, peppermint. Cool. Yeah, that's another one. I'll go through these kind of quick. The nutrients that I use, if you watch my channel, I've got a video in the frequently asked questions, and it says the nutrients I use. It's Master Blend, tomato formula, the 4-1838, and Epsom salt and calcium nitrate. And the ratios are on that video. I use 12 grams, and 6 grams. So it's 1.5. So this right here, like I said, if I buy it in bulk, if you go on Amazon and you get the kit, they've got a kit that has like 1 pound of Master Blend and 1 pound of calcium nitrate and half a pound of Epsom salt. And if you buy that and you mix it up in 5-gallon measures like that, you're going to get almost 200 gallons. So you're talking about somewhere like 12 cents a gallon. Now, if you want to get even cheaper than that, you can buy it in bulk. I order from Morgan County Seeds, and there's a couple of other places, but I get just my Master Blend from them, and I get a 25-pound bag or a 50-pound bag. So it depends on how much I'm going to be using. But I remember somebody, CB, used to come on here all the time. He had a greenhouse just full of tomatoes, and he said he went through like a 25-pound bag like every week. So made a 25-pound bag last me all year. So if you want to get, cheap on it, go ahead and save up money and buy it in bulk. But if you're just starting out, go ahead and just get a kit. Cool. Please, can you post a link to the nutrients? I'll put it in there a little later if you come back on this and check it. But if you go to that video, if you go on my YouTube channel, there's a frequently asked question playlist, and the nutrient one is right in the beginning. There's a link to it inside of there, the one that I get. Flowering stage, do you back off the calcium nitrate, or do you get less in potassium? Nope. Neil, you're free to do anything you like, but you can see like the ones that I grew, straight Master Blend formula. I didn't change it up. Right from the very beginning, that's what I used, and use the same thing through the whole grow. Now, one thing that I did say was that, and we'll get on to the refilling here since we're talking about nutrients, and then we'll get on to the refilling. If you're going to grow just greens, I think Juliana or Juju in the chat there, she used General Hydroponics, Maxi Grow and Maxi Bloom. I use General Hydroponics, Maxi Grow for our greens, and that worked just fine. So if you're just growing greens, you can get that, and it's a 1-part formula. You just put I think it's a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons per gallon. So that's real easy. Mix it up, water soluble, and call it done. Now the tomatoes, I didn't change anything. You're free to do that. And lots of people, talk about like the phosphorus and the calcium for the tomatoes. And I don't get into all that. Like I said, I'm going to be the world's dumbest gardener. So what I'm trying to show you guys is the basics. And I want to show you something that someone who doesn't, I don't try to learn all of the other stuff, because I want beginners to learn how to do this and get excited about it. So I don't mind pointing you like to different channels or different people, but when you start to get technical with metering stuff and changing stuff up, it's not that I don't want to give anyone an answer. It's just, I don't know. I don't do it, and I have no desire to do it. So my desire is to try and do it as easy as possible. So I get out there and I know that I could go on Amazon, which is easy, and I can order a meter, and I can go on Amazon and order pH up and pH down and do that. But when I have my containers like this set up, the living wall is one thing, right? You got that whole living wall in one container. When I have cracky containers all over, and now we had the little glass jars, at one time during the spring, we had like 100 containers all over the place growing stuff. And if I had to go through and check every one and meter it and try to adjust and stir and check it, it'd be a full-time job. And I would just say, screw this. I'm not, up with all of that. But if you just have a couple of containers, like a couple of towers, and you want to do that, this one, if you have a tower with 3, you're going to have to do it 3 times. And I just don't check all of that. If it doesn't work for that, I'm just not going to grow it, and I'll try to grow something else. So I'm just showing you guys stuff that's grown with just the master blend formula, not changing it up, not changing the ratio or anything. I mix this stuff in 5-gallon buckets, and I have the buckets sitting and just dip out of that and pour it into here, which I think that's one of our topics, right? Refilling. Nutrients I use, how often I refill. Let's go ahead and get onto that. And I just refill these. So I'll have the 5-gallon bucket set up. And like I said, I'm not going to let this go all the way down and all the way back up. So I'm not using that much at a time. Even if I was gone and I let this accidentally drop, I won't fill it all the way back up. The most I ever put into something like this is like 3 quarts at a time. So if I accidentally let this go down, I just fill it a little bit back up and let it go down and then I maintain that level. What I do from the very beginning is I put the plants in. So you got your tomatoes and that in here, right? Everything's all put in here. You've got your plants in here. I come in here, and usually when you first put it in, the first 3-4 weeks, you're not doing much of anything. And sometimes that can be a curse or a blessing, because sometimes you'll just forget, because it just goes and goes and goes, and you're not doing anything. And then one day, the plants are like drying up. But what I do is after a couple of weeks, I come out and pull one of these out and just reach in there and just touch. And everybody's telling me how to put a float or a little peak valve or a cork and all of this. And like I said, everybody's free to do that. I'm giving you the basic so that you can learn how to do this. And I want you guys to take it and experiment with it and extrapolate and do something better. So there's a lot of people in our Facebook group that are experimenting and doing other things. And me, I'm always going to go right back to the basics, because like I said, new people will come on. I can get real technical about everything, and it's just going to turn some people away. They won't even want to give it a try. So I want people to at least try, and then you can go ask other people. Like Neil probably knows a whole lot more than I do, and go ask them questions, and they can help you along the way. So that way we help everybody up the hill. And it's not me like at the top of the hill going, look what I did. Come on, you can do it. I want to be at the bottom of the hill with everybody, pushing people up. So when I refill it, so I'm not going to go over and put a little system in. If you want to put an automatic float system in here, you can do that. Somebody did that in our group. They put another bucket up here with nutrients so they could let it go longer, and they put a float valve in there. That was pretty cool. And all I do is just pull this out and put my finger in here. And if I can touch the nutrients, if I can touch it and it's down below the hole there, I don't do anything. If there's any nutrients anywhere in there, I just leave it. And then as soon as I go ahead and do like that and I can't touch the nutrients, that's when I refill it. Some people asked, how do you fill it up, from the side? Because the top's easy, right? Pull the top off, pour it in there. So if you got these stacked 3 high, the top one, you can lift up the lid and just pour it in the top. Look, those are banana peppers that grew in here. Same formula, just set it and forget it. Banana peppers, tomatoes. So just really easy to do. In each one of those, I got about 3 in each one. And let me check real quick. We'll see. There's all the tomatoes that came off of one, a whole load of peppers, and picked a bunch of green tomatoes. We'll come back to that real quick. Here's refilling it. So I just leave one hole open, and this one actually had 2. And if I can't reach the water, then I've got my 5-gallon bucket, and I just get one of these funnels and just add it like that. So if you're checking it every day or every couple of days, it's not going to drop that much. So you won't have to fill too much in there. And some of these you can actually look, you can shine a light on it if you need, or you can actually feel it too, and you can feel where it's cool, and you can feel how much is in there. So if you don't want to buy a funnel, I just took like a Coke bottle. I took a alcohol bottle that we had used and cut it and put that in there like a funnel too. You can use just about anything. And sometimes if I'm really lazy, I just have the container, my almond milk jug, and I just stick it in there, and you can't get everything in there, but you can pour enough. If you just need to add a little, you don't even need the funnel. You can just do that. And let me get a little sip. Would it work to make your own compost tea? All right. I'm going to address this really quick, and we'll move on to the next one. Since this is non-circulating, if you want to go ahead and get pumps, filters, aeration, meters, and take care of all of that, to me, that gets a little too, it's out of the realm of easy. And even though you're getting affordable and you're using your own, anything that's organic, because it's just sitting, and this is static, it's not stagnant. Stagnant's when everything rots and then it turns kind of like that. When you use Master Blend, there's not a whole lot of organic material in here. So it can sit here for, a month and it doesn't turn bad. Once you get organic material into here, and there's air and there's food and stuff's breaking down, it doesn't take but a couple of days and it starts to go bad, and they call it anaerobic. It'll start to smell bad, and then different things start happening in there that the plants don't like. I've tried several times and haven't come up with anything. I'd ordered different ones that were made with fish fertilizer, and it turned into something like a SCOBY. If anybody knows what that is. And I tried ones with fish waste, like fish poop, and then they add like a little mint in there so it doesn't smell too bad. But nothing that I tried so far has worked. But we keep on. We're still trying. So it's experiments. Compost tea you can try, but I've had some compost tea. You got to sit and let it brew, and those will work to some extent, but you're not going to have the same results as knowing exactly what's in the Master Blend and putting it in here and filling it up and getting started right off the bat. And when you make compost tea at home, it's really a guesswork. Compost tea is more for treating like your garden, and you can use it as a foliar spray. But when you first put it in here, it's kind of hard to tell one batch to the next what's actually in it. Whereas when you take Master Blend 1438 or one of the other ones, or General Hydroponics, you know exactly what you're putting in to start. So there's not a whole lot of guesswork. And if something starts happening to the plants when you have your compost tea in there, you can't tell if you did something wrong or if it's that, or, it could be any number of things. So give it a try. It's fun. Just anything that's organic, it's just like, to me, it starts to break down really fast. And especially when it starts getting warm like this, it gets really, really smelly really fast. We'll get on to cleaning. 2 more real quick here. We've already on an hour. How do you support your plants? All right, lettuce, tomato, or lettuce, your greens and that, you really don't have to worry about it. Kale, if you guys go back and watch like my videos, the last towers I set up kale, when I first put them in, they're all hanging down. People are worried, oh, my plants are drooping. The plants will all right themselves. after it starts to get adapted and acclimated, and then the sun's up here, your kale and that will stand back up. So I don't bother doing it. If you grow your kale really big, then you're gonna have to support it. I just kind of grow it to the baby green stage, and we start harvesting. And some of them grow a little bit bigger, but kale, once it gets situated, it'll start to grow. And your pool noodles, what I would suggest is, this is how big I used to make it for the downspouts. If you're gonna do it for this, I would cut them a little bit thicker, because if you're gonna put plants and they start to get heavy, they'll start to kind of stretch in there and they'll lean over. Might have to come in and keep pushing it up a little. So if you make that a little bit bigger, if you make it too skinny, it's going to pop out really easy. But your tomatoes, especially if you get indeterminate, I try to get determinate ones, but if you get like the vine, you're going to have to take those and trellis them up. And any way that you trellis a regular tomato, you can trellis these too. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but there's green strings in there. Like the white bucket there, you can see those green strings, and right there where the hole is at. Okay, could you see those green strings? And that's just these little S hooks. You get a bunch of these. They're like really cheap. You know, you can get a couple. You can go in a hardware store and buy like 4 or 5, but I order like a bunch of them like that. And really all you got to do is just come along and take them. And I just set them on there, and like the ones that are on the bottom in the top bucket, now I tie a string to that, little twine, and then tie it around the plant. I tie a little slip knot so I can pull it up as I need it, or I can untie it and retie it. And even if there's something in it, like another plant on the one up above it, you can just slide this in behind of it like that, and it still works. So you don't even have to pull that out. When you see me doing that in the video, it's just to show everyone what I was doing. But that's what I do for like the bottom one and the top one. And then on the top, usually I go ahead and grow like basil or something that you can just let grow wild. The top one, if you do put tomatoes, you saw mine was up against the house. We actually went up to the eave of the house and put a couple of screws, and I just tied twine from there, and they grew all the way up to the edge of the house. So really easy. It doesn't have to get complicated. You can I put tomato stakes, the bamboo stakes next to mine, and then just the little clips, and just clipped it onto the stakes. Some people, the top one, they put a tomato cage and flip it upside down, bend over the top ones so they're not pointy, and zip tie it on, and then you have a cage going up through the top. So all different kind of things, but you don't have to get too crazy. Like I said, a bunch of these are really cheap, and then a roll of twine is like a couple of bucks or something, right? So that makes it easy. And then with that, you just take it and tie it. And if you're using the garden twine, when you're done, you can just cut it, let it drop, and just disintegrate back into the ground. And then I pull all the S hooks off, and I save them for the next time. The sun, with everything in the plants, just like they say, you want to plant somewhere to get 6 to 8 hours of sun. You know, to me, if I put mine out there, my whole backyard's shaded, so I get a couple hours. So what you see me growing, you might be able to do a whole lot better. You might have a whole lot more sunlight. What you want to do is get your plants as much sun as you can without them wilting and dying. So I try to put mine where they're facing, where the morning sun will come up, and they'll get a lot of morning sun. And then when it gets over to where it's warm, like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun's really beating down, I want it to be in the shade by then. So that's why I like these too, because I can mess around with it and have it in one spot in the yard. And if I have it in the yard where it's still like 3 or 4 o'clock and the sun's just beating on it, and they're getting too warm, I can pick it up and move them. And you guys won't believe, and this we'll do another video on, just moving your plants like 1 foot or 2 feet up on my living wall. I had shade cloth up over half of it for an experiment, and the other side was open, and just this much difference. And this was shaded and this one wasn't. The plant was twice as big, and it was all in the same material, same nutrients, same everything, and just that much difference made a plant twice as big. So you try to get it as much sun as possible, but you don't want it to be where, you know, if you put it out there and everything's wilting and dying, obviously you got to move it, right? I'll face mine, like I said, where I get the most morning sun, and you might have to look around your yard, or, you know, if you don't have these stacked up and you can move them, you know, you can move them throughout the day if you need to. You know, another thing we've done is some people have covered these up with the foil, the bubble wrap, and that kind of reflects the heat. And another thing you can do is you can always like set a board or something up under your plants. You know, whatever you can do, you can even put cardboard, something that's going to reflect the heat a little and keep this nice and cool. You guys won't believe that just getting the sun off of something like this for a couple of hours, how much cooler your stuff will stay. And I get some people who are just like, you know, it's way too hot and my stuff's dying, and then I'll ask them, and they'll have this sitting out in the direct sun like all day long. And you know, when it's 90 something degrees outside, it's just not going to last. When they say 90 something, it's in the shade, and I showed you with my thermometer and that too. And it's actually the ground and everything where these things are coming into contact is actually like over 100 degrees, about 120 degrees. So this stuff will, you know, warm up fast. You got to treat it, you know, just like your drink. If you take it, you know, you're not going to take your little icy beverage. This is a hot coffee, and you're not going to take it and set it right out in the sun and expect it to be cold an hour later, right? So you take your stuff and you set it down in the shade. And the last thing, how do you clean them? So you harvest it and clean it. So you guys saw how we grow nutrients and everything. If you got any questions, I've got videos on that on the channel. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is just the different kinds. And some of you are already doing this, already know. People like are concerned about that, so they get food grade. These are white buckets. If you go to bakeries and that, most of them have white buckets. And this light gets into it, you get a little bit of algae, but I still grew a whole lot of tomatoes, and I'll show you, right? Let's look at that picture one more time. This will be the last time I kind of show you. Keep putting it up here. But you see I got red, white, and blue. And you can see there's peppers all over the first ones, the blue ones, and there's tomatoes all over the white one. And there's tomatoes over on the red one. I don't know if I got pictures of that. So those got algae in it, but they all did basically the same, whether they had algae or not. Now let's look inside. And you can see it's not like all white roots. You know, that's what everybody's like, you know, doing a grow, and they're going to yank out a thing full of white roots and not have very many tomatoes on it or whatever. And people are like, you know, all ecstatic about the root system. What I care about is the fruit that it produces. And you can see that the water here is clear all the way to the bottom in this one. And there's just a little bit of, you know, schmutz in that on the bottom. So that's a little bit of organic matter. And that could be a little bit of algae that started growing in the water and died and floated, sunk to the bottom. We rinsed off the roots here. I don't rinse them off really well. There could be a little dirt left on that, and as it grows, it just falls to the bottom. But you can see that you can see clear through to the bottom there. And I've never shared, I don't think I shared this with people yet. This is the white one. Like I said, in algae, you know, grew in this one because it's a lot lighter. So you can see the difference in both of these. The other one was totally clear. This one's kind of clear, but you can see there's a lot more algae in it, right? And all of that came off really easy. I just took one of the old pool noodles and just wiped it around like a sponge, and it just wiped it right off. But if you're worried about like mosquitoes, you can see there's not a bunch of mosquitoes flying around in there, and there's not a whole lot of larvae, and I didn't put anything in this. And this is the blue one in the roots. And this was peppers and that, but you can see there's, you know, a little bit of salt on the top of it, but the water's clear as can be underneath. You can see all the way to the bottom. So that made it like really easy to clean up. This one was just like rinse it out and you know, just wipe it with a towel and start over. So that's cleaning, and that's what all you got to do is just take everything out. Since you grew a bunch of tomatoes and you spent like 2 or 3 cents on here, I don't bother trying to keep them. I just start over with another one. And the white ones, you're going to do a little bit of cleaning. If you cover them up, a little foil, burlap, bamboo mat, all kinds of stuff. Just use your imagination. You can cut down on the algae and also cut down on the heat. But the blue ones, I like those that they're not getting any algae in them at all. And those were really, you can see that it was like really easy to take it and pull these out, rinse it out a little bit, wipe it out, and then you're back in business and you start over. So that's the bucket system. You guys got any questions? I got videos on it. All right. All right, cool. You guys, I love y'all. If you see me over the weekend, that's cool. If not, no big deal. Like I said, I'm going to be coming on a lot and very often this whole next month and try to help as many people as we can when it's warm. Not a lot of people thinking about growing right now. So this is when we can get the information, help each other, get our supplies together, and probably do the most help instead of waiting till like fall when everybody's ready to get out there and do it, and then everybody panics, right? So lots of fun. Thank y'all. Much love. Live to inspire. Keep on growing. Be the change. Good night, everyone.